Let's move on to issue 2. Animal Man joins Donna Troy's crew on her floating moon spaceship thing called New Cronus, which I just realized I don't think we ever saw what happened to that thing after this storyline. Did she still have that up until the New 52? The crew includes her, Cyborg, Starfire, Firestorm, Shift, Bumblebee, the Herald, Animal Man, Red Tornado, Airwave, the Alan Scott Green Lantern, Jade, and Supergirl. Pay very close attention to this group. I think they're going to contribute a lot to this story. We cut over to Metropolis, where a bunch of secret society villains are fighting Power Girl. That includes the Psycho Pirate, who reveals that they've been dispatched by Luthor to capture her alive. Fortunately, the villains are quickly dealt with by the Earth 2 Superman, who greets her. As a reminder, Power Girl was the Supergirl from Earth 2, and she ended up surviving the crisis, but the writers and editors kept trying to come up with new backstories for her that never stuck. Over at the Daily Planet, Lois finds Clark sulking as he looks at some old newspaper headlines, in particular the one showing his death. Bruce is right, Lois. He's always right. Maybe rock and roll is what's causing all this. Having heard about what happened to the freedom fighters, Clark decides to head out and try to find the Society. Speaking of said Society, they report to the alternate Luthor their failure to capture Power Girl, but he says it's okay, they have a contingency plan for her. They're also having trouble finding a member of the Marvel family. Hey, check Gotham, we saw him crash into a police car in issue 1. But the alternate Luthor says, screw it, they're out of time, so just bring Black Adam to him. He claims it's for a machine that'll mind wipe all the heroes, but there's obviously something else afoot. We see that the actual Lex Luthor is monitoring these transmissions and standing in the middle of the Arctic. However, we also see that he's having problems thinking and concentrating. His concentration returns, though, when he sees the Earth 2 Superman and Power Girl flying overhead. Nothing like a hate boner for Superman to keep a guy focused. And maybe to a lesser extent a regular boner for Power Girl, but let's face it, it's Lex. The hate boner wins out. The Earth 2 Superman brings Power Girl to meet the others. This is Superboy. Actually, you could call me Superboy Prime. Wow, and now I'm the one with the boner. Alex Luthor, who we now see ended up spending his time in the beautiful realm getting a haircut, theorizes that Power Girl is an aberration to this universe. The conflicting backstories and powers that she's exhibited are a result of reality trying to fit her into a universe she doesn't belong in. The Earth 2 Superman recounts to her the backstory of the multiverse and the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths in a sequence drawn by George Perez. Yeah, I should note, Phil Jimenez is the one doing the art for Infinite Crisis, and it's friggin' great. The dude is basically like George Perez with his ability to draw a gajillion people and have really great layouts for his stuff. As a reminder, he also did JLA/Titans The Technis Imperative, aka my favorite comic of all time. Go watch the old episode. So this is awesome. Anyway, from their little beautiful heaven place, the four observed the reborn DC Universe and thought everything worked out pretty well, at first. But then things started going wrong. Jason Todd's death, Superman dying, Batman getting his back broken, Hal Jordan becoming Parallax, Wonder Woman losing her Wonder Woman title for a while, and the artwork getting really bad, escalating even further to then recent events like Identity Crisis, Ted Kord's murder, Connor's brainwashing, and finally Wendy killing Maxwell Lord. They felt that there was something inherently wrong with this universe, a darkness that had infected it. Their little refuge also began to warp and shatter, supporting their theory about its corruption. Although maybe it's just you guys never bothered to clean the place properly and there's mold. Just saying, I don't really see Superboy Prime doing much spot cleaning. Power Girl and the Earth 2 Superman go to see Lois, who's dying, while Alex Luthor decides to study a few inconsistencies on this Earth, aka all the continuity errors the DCU had to deal with after the crisis. Meanwhile, back up on the moon, one of our true heroes arrives. Booster Gold! He had left during the OMAC Project miniseries, feeling like he had failed Ted Kord and everybody else for not having enough knowledge about their future, but has now returned with a new skeet to try to fix this mess. Problem is that time travel is an imprecise science, and they've arrived later than they had intended. Still, they've got a plan, with the first step being to find the Blue Beetle scarab. And just to follow in the spirit of weighing you all down with continuity, for the full history of that, check out my Blue Beetle retrospective for details there. Shamelessly plugging one of my other massive reviews. Basically, I just want you all to be watching my show 24/7. Next, it's over to the Joker of all people, who's torturing King of the Royal Flush Gang. It seems that the Joker hasn't gotten his invitation to join the secret society. Don't you get it, clown? You're the only one! You're the only one they don't want! Well, I mean, you and One-Face. That guy's messed up even for us. Joker does not take kindly to that and zaps the guy. When Lois and Power Girl touch, all of her memories of Earth 2 come back, which is never explained. It would be really neat if this entire situation could be resolved by just having the Earth 2 Superman poke people. In the Batcave, Batman is trying to analyze the Watchtower black box, but it's been damaged and it will take some time for the files to be recovered. Alfred tries to treat his wounds, but Bat slaps his hand away and screams at him to come back later. It really shows how far Bruce has fallen at this point. Not helped by a call from Brother Eye, who's all like, "Why don't you like what I'm doing, Dad? I'm just trying to stop the metahumans from acting unlawfully just like you told me to." We see that the Omax have been sent to Themyscira to massacre all the Amazons. For some reason. Yeah, Brother Eye called out Wonder Woman specifically, but why it wants to kill off all the Amazons is unclear, especially when you realize that alongside the super weaponry they have, they're also still fighting with bows and arrows. Maybe Brother Eye knows the future and is trying to prevent Amazon's attack from happening. And so, issue 2 ends with the Earth 2 Superman explaining what they can do to save Lois's life, as well as fix this corrupted Earth. When Crisis on Infinite Earths ended, Earth 1 became the main Earth everything was folded into. So now, their only chance is to change that. Earth 2 has to come back. Issue 3 begins with Atlantis being destroyed by the Spectre. We even see our old pal Tempest of the Titans trying to use his magics to defend it, as well as a little continuity fixing from the original printing, as there he asks his wife Dolphin to get their daughter out of there, but if you recall the Titans retrospective, he had a son. Things are not getting any better on Themyscira, along with another change made for the trade as the Amazons unveil their latest weapon. The Purple Death Ray has been completed! My god! They've built an infinity modulator! I mean, I guess the Omax are kind of like the Borg. For some reason, in the trade, they cut out the Purple Death Ray line. Maybe they just thought it sounded too silly. In case you don't know, the Purple Ray is usually a healing device, hence why the name to begin with. Also, with a weapon like that made by the Amazons, would it be more appropriate to say pants to be purpled? Batman tries to get Brother Eye to stop the attack, but it refuses. He even tosses a chair at the screen, which, yeah, I know you're rich, Bruce, but that cannot have been cheap. He has a breakdown, probably some PTSD flashbacks of how this has all gone to hell, and he wishes he could start over and try this again. And that's when the Earth 2 Superman arrives to tell him he can. Back with Power Girl, she lets Lois rest a bit while Alexander tends to her, saying she's acted like a mother to them all. Superboy Prime questions Power Girl about whether she's going to help them, but she needs to think about it. The multiverse was unstable, so if they do this, there can only be one Earth. I need to know what happens to everyone on our Earth if— Our Earth? Our Earth? This isn't our Earth, Kara! It's not yours or mine! I mean, it's not like everything was better on my Earth or anything, but still. Prime is especially pissed off about Connor. The fact that Connor has everything he ever wanted, but he's not doing anything to help his friends. Meanwhile, over in El Paso, Texas— yes, I am still sorry I made that mistake in the Blue Beetle retrospective. The explosion of the Rock of Eternity, being magical and all, sent pieces of debris as far out as there, so the magical heroes from Day of Vengeance, the Shadow Pact, are in the midst of gathering debris and saving innocents, while a certain Mr. Jaime Reyes is picking up a weird blue scarab on the ground. And then over at the Spatial Anomaly, New Cronus has arrived to assist, Donna explaining to the others that there's a phrase being repeated in her head. A few seconds will make all the difference. Boy, I'm sure that's gonna pay off big time, boy howdy! Wally West gives a goodbye to his wife and twin children as he heads out, while the Earth 2 Superman decides to show Bruce how cool Earth 2 was thanks to his glowing red avocado he apparently has. The crystal or whatever it is shows images of Earth 2, how Bruce on that Earth got married, had a daughter, how that world was full of hope and love and no traffic accidents. You get the idea. He wants Bruce along with him since he wants to do this with Batman standing alongside him. Back to the Amazons, Wendy tells her people to shut off the Purple Death Ray. Brother Eye is showing the world everything that is happening here. They see us in pursuit of war. They see us as bloodthirsty warriors. That's some pretty creative editing to show a bunch of women fighting off weird-ass robot attackers with one eye as bloodthirsty and in pursuit of war. She makes a little speech about how even if they drive off the Omax, someone else will come looking for them. As such, since Diana feels that she's failed in her mission of peace to man's world, the only hope for the Themyscirans is to leave this plane of existence. The patron gods agree, and they take them up on that, with Diana electing to remain behind because of reasons. As the alternate Luthor has the other society members take Black Adam down, the actual Lex Luthor arrives to confront him. However, even while admitting how he was able to track him, he keeps getting headaches and can't concentrate. The alternate Luthor says it's because his brainwaves are much more advanced and are operating on an anti-frequency, screwing with his cognitive functions. Tell me, Lex Luthor, how does it feel to be stupid? Yeah, well, your face is... Shut up! Lex blasts the alternate Luthor, but it does nothing to him. He instead just shoots back with purple energy. Meanwhile, Earth 2 Superman says that none of this was Bruce's fault, that he can't trust the people around him. However, Bats has a perfect counter-argument. And what about Dick Grayson? Yes? Is he a better man on your Earth than he is on mine? No. Aha! I bet your Batman never even fed him a single rat! Batman pulls out the kryptonite ring to try to repel him, but the Earth 2 Superman isn't from this universe, so the radiation from it doesn't affect him. Yet I guess yellow sunlight is the same no matter what universe, since that still seems to work fine on you. I'm guessing it does affect him, just not as severely or as quickly as it normally would. Earth 2 Superman sees the ring as a symbol of mistrust and paranoia, so he destroys it and leaves. The black box repairs are almost complete, and Bruce prepares to watch them. Over to the Lexes, the real Luthor destroys some of the computer equipment, and the alternate Luthor is revealed to be a hologram over Alexander Luthor. A figure, the reader is led to believe it's the Earth 2 Superman, destroys Lex's power armor. Alexander tells the figure to erase him, but before he can carry on with that, Lex uses a teleporter to escape. While Batman watches the security footage, Power Girl returns to the cave to try to talk to Superboy Prime and Alex, suggesting that they talk to the heroes of this Earth, figure out a way to save everyone. However, when she can't find them, she goes deeper into the cave and discovers something. Now, before I make this reveal, I want to share for a second what I and a few others on a message board back in the day thought was going to be the big reveal, since the clues end up lining up better in my humble opinion, and because it's my show and I can spend my time doing whatever the hell I want. The build-up to Infinite Crisis didn't make a lot of sense as a sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths when you look at the individual pieces. I mean, a war out in space? Some rogue artificial intelligence? The Spectre trying to destroy magic? Sure, these are all bad things, but what the hell does that have to do with the original Crisis? Well, it's only when you put them all together, and especially combine that with the first issue, that you see a bigger picture forming. The Omax flying around the red sky? What if it's not just homaging the imagery, but the Omax are the new shadow demons? The Anti-Monitor was almost foiled by the heroes and villains of Earth joining forces against him, and the heroes even had to deal with villains taking over some of the alternate Earths. What if the villains were no longer a threat, or in fact, were working for you? Adam Strange and a few other cosmic heroes had been the ones to go to Darkseid and ask for his help against the Anti-Monitor. Suddenly, there's a big cosmic war going on that's distracting them. And the Spectre himself, boosted by the mystical energy of all the magical beings in the DC universe, stopped the Anti-Monitor at the beginning of time. Add on Pariah warning the alternate Luthor about an apex predator, and suddenly the picture is becoming very clear. The return of the Anti-Monitor. After all, the character had officially been dead since Crisis on Infinite Earths. People like the Psycho Pirate survived, but not the Anti-Monitor. And he had already proven how hard he was to kill. The biggest, baddest bad of the DC universe making his terrifying return. Now that is a crisis to worry about. Well, we were sorta right. On a 2-page spread, Power Girl finds one of the Monitor's vibrational tuning fork towers, with the corpse of the Anti-Monitor shoved into the middle of it. Well, I've got to admit, as far as trophies of your victories go, that's probably better than a giant penny. And today, we're gonna see what happens when we put the Anti-Monitor in a hydraulic press. More importantly, though, there are a number of figures attached to the tower, including Lady Quark, Black Adam, a lesser-known hero named Breach, the Ray, and the Martian Manhunter. Power Girl is knocked out, and interspersed with that is Batman viewing the black box footage, revealing that the Martian Manhunter's kidnapper and the accomplice to Alex Luthor is, of course, Superboy Prime, ending issue 3. Issue 4 begins with the Society deciding to drop chemo on Bloodhaven. For no good reason other than Deathstroke being pissy at Nightwing over stuff that happened in his solo book. I'm guessing anyway, since the villains otherwise just decided to blow up an American city because, why not? Fortunately, Bloodhaven is back at the time of this video thanks to DC Rebirth, but man oh man was destroying Bloodhaven just such a dumb idea. I get why they did it. One of the original plans for Infinite Crisis was to kill Dick Grayson. There was a thought that it was hard to place the age of characters like Bruce Wayne because he not only had a sidekick who was now an adult, but he had another teenager he was training too. So the idea was, hey, let's kill this in-between generation and hope nobody remembers they exist because how dare Bruce be 40? As a reminder, even at this point, the majority of readers were people who were long-time fans, so it's not like they were just going to forget the original Robin! But yeah, if Nightwing was gonna die, why keep around the city they had established for him? Then they realized what a mistake killing him would be, but still had Bloodhaven destroyed. It was such a short-sighted move that I am shocked that they never tried to fix it later after the atrociousness of Battle for Bloodhaven and the plot points of Countdown that everybody pretty much agreed to never speak of again. Power Girl, now hooked up to the tower, demands to know what the hell Alex and Prime are doing. The two reveal that they've actually been coming to this universe for a while to initiate their plan. Prime was able to bust out of their little heaven dimension, same as the Earth 2 Superman did, by punching walls. And no, it is not in Infinite Crisis where it's revealed that him punching those walls is what created all the continuity errors in the DC universe. That was in the Secret Files and Origins comic for Infinite Crisis. What's sad is that even if that had been a thing in this book, it's not even in the top 10 silliest things we've ever seen on this show. And thus he explains how the disparate elements really connect. His machine requires various superpowered individuals to work, so he created the Society to collect those individuals. Those individuals originate from different worlds in the multiverse. He recruited the Psycho Pirate and had him give Jean Loring the Eclipso Diamond, in turn getting her to get the Spectre on his quest, creating a bunch of raw magical energy to power his machine. Which is really funny when you realize he subcontracted out this job to the Psycho Pirate, who subcontracted it out to Jean Loring, who in turn subcontracted it out again to the Spectre. Lex Luthor wishes he was this convoluted in business. The programming for the tower would come from Brother Eye. Alex was the one who assumed control over it and advanced its artificial intelligence to its current point. Superboy Prime, being as powerful as a pre-crisis Superman, was able to literally move planets around through sheer brute strength, shifting worlds and gravitational forces so that the center of the universe was now where it was in Earth 2's universe. Of course, unintentionally creating the Rann-Thanagar War. So even in the story, the Rann-Thanagar War was an afterthought to everything else. From that rip in the space-time continuum, he'll use the tower to divide this universe back into segments of the multiverse so that he can try to create a perfect Earth. That's not going to be Earth 2, but the Earth 2 Superman doesn't know that. Power Girl thinks the Psycho Pirate's interference explains Wonder Woman killing Maxwell Lord or Batman's increased paranoia, but no. Alex says they did that on their own. And good on them for sticking to that. While there's plenty of arguments to be made about out-of-character behavior, sometimes it's important to have characters make mistakes and not try to sweep it under the rug as a villainous plan. And in this case, it's important to show that, yeah, this world is flawed, but it's not worth killing it all because of some douchebag's quest. I admit I'm of two minds about Alex being the real villain here. On one hand, I do get the motivation about believing this Earth to be corrupted, or that given his unique birth and development, he may have just had some weird hang-ups and ethos. But on the other hand, this feels really at odds with his characterization in Crisis on Infinite Earths, where he seemed a lot more noble and understanding of right and wrong. Power Girl tries to argue with him, but Alex won't hear any of it. "Hush, Kara. It's time for you to sleep like the others." And he kisses her to knock her out. Is that how he put all the other ones to sleep? Man, you know you had an accelerated growth into adulthood if he's so bad at making out that he puts them to sleep. Superboy Prime flies off, having now completed his task. He wants to finally confront Connor. Meanwhile, Batman meets up with Nightwing, who's getting ready to head into Bloodhaven to try to help survivors. However, Bats pulls out the black box, saying he needs his help with the stuff with the Earth 2 Superman. Speaking of, the Earth 2 Superman returns to the cave and is starting to doubt the plan a bit because of what Batman said about Dick Grayson, but Alex convinces him to just worry about Lois for the time being. Prime arrives in Smallville to confront Connor, and yeah, this is a bit that's infamous. Prime starts rambling to Connor about him being a failure and there needs to be a Superboy who knows right from wrong, while Connor just keeps telling him to back the hell off because, of course, he has no idea who the hell this guy is or what he's talking about. While Booster Gold discovers that Jaime has the Blue Beetle scarab, Prime attacks Connor all the way into the city. Minor change from the single issue to the trade is that originally Connor starts calling him a mofo, but that got cut out. Yes, like with Youngblood, excessive violence, and believe you me, it's about to get really excessive, is perfectly okay. But how dare we even imply a naughty word? Batman explains to Nightwing what's going on with the Earth 2 Superman and Prime and all that. He wants Nightwing to rally the heroes against them because, well, nobody trusts Batman anymore. Instead, he's gonna go deal with Brother Eye, so they split off to do their respective things. Speaking of the Titans, since Prime is absolutely wailing on him, Connor decides to call in the troops and summons the Titans via his communicator. And they bring everybody, even the Doom Patrol and the JSA. The stuff with the Spectre is resolved quickly as we see him get bonded to a new host, one of the main characters of the title Gotham Central, but back to Prime. And the infamous moments. Prime accidentally punches off the head of former Titan member Pantha. He even screams, crying that he didn't mean to do that. Further still, murdering Baby Wildebeest, Bushido, and ripping off the arm of Risk from the Dan Jurgens Teen Titans group. So, yeah. Let's talk about this event for a moment, and what it's really about beyond just a sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths. Nostalgia can be toxic. Now, bear in mind, I did not say that it is toxic, but that it can be toxic. This assumption that because we have pleasant memories of something, that it was always good all the time. A desire to get that back ignores all the good that's come since then, as well as all the bad stuff that was there too. And it poisons you, making you more susceptible to deception, to your own greed. Who's to say that your own past is more important than someone else's future? And because you want something that may not have been real at all, the farther the goalpost gets, because you can't really reclaim it. So it just gets worse and worse, and you get greedier and more desperate for it, because what you really want is never going to come. Until in the very end, you become the thing you hated in the first place. You become more concerned with chasing some imaginary feeling that you forget where you are, and that you can create real, attainable goals right now. To this mindset, the past is more important than the future. The Earth 2 Superman thinks that he can reclaim everything by bringing back something from his past. Superboy Prime exemplifies this most of all, and in issue 4, his character works. Because it's an actual tragedy. Someone who thinks he's reclaiming something that's his, when of course it isn't his. He's too fixated on this ideal version of the world that he can't believe that anything else is possible. The reason why I mock Superboy Prime and other works is because he stopped being this cautionary tale and instead became a farce, a method for the writers, Jeff Johns in particular, to complain about angry fans who didn't like his work. Oh, they don't like change. They only want something from their past. But as I've said before, Jeff Johns is guilty of this too. The man has never met a retcon he didn't like. He likes to pretend plot points happened a certain way because it suits the story he wants to tell. Connor Kent is a perfect example of this. Jeff Johns is the one who introduced the retcon that Connor was also a clone of Lex Luthor, because it served the story he wanted to tell. He is guilty of the exact same toxic nostalgia, wanting to recreate a world from his past by sacrificing the past of everybody else. And sometimes that world was better. Hal Jordan's turn to evil was a bad idea, and fixing that was the right call. The difference between Superboy Prime and Jeff Johns is that Jeff Johns is capable of fixing those mistakes while not sacrificing everything else that went along the way. Bear in mind, when he brought back Hal Jordan, he didn't kill Kyle Rayner just because, well, you gotta clear the way for Hal. It's more about repairing the future rather than changing the past. Sure, he still screws it up on occasion. Prime himself is the best example of that. But he's usually intent on serving the larger picture. Superboy Prime, however, is trapped in this sense of entitlement. His reality, his sacrifice is the only thing that matters to him. He feels he deserves it all and doesn't care who he has to hurt to get it back. And despite his constant proclamations, it's because he's not Superman. Superman is a promise to serve the world, all of humanity, hell, all of life itself. He puts the world before himself because that is the man he's grown to be. Superboy Prime, though, well, he's a teenager who suddenly got superpowers, lost his entire planet, got shoved into a glass prison with two old people and a weird creepy guy who was technically only a few days old, and gets to watch everybody else on Earth get the happy ending he thinks he was supposed to get. Dude's got issues. Infinite Crisis is trying to be critical of this mindset, but it also has no answer to the rightful criticisms that mindset lobbed at the DC universe. It has gotten too dark. The heroes have done morally questionable things that have ended up hurting themselves and others. And while it's still shaking its finger at all that, it revels in those same elements. Excessive violence, death, the heroes failing. All of it is personified in a teenager bawling his eyes out while literally ripping people apart and screaming, "You're ruining everything!" But this review has already ballooned far beyond what it was intended, and there's a long way to go, so let's continue. With things escalating out of control, the only solution they can think of to get Superboy Prime out of there is by having the Flashes, Jay Garrick, Wally West, and Kid Flash Bart Allen, super speed Prime into the Speed Force. Unfortunately, the effort is, well, quite a bit harder than they expected. Wally ends up trying to say goodbye to his family because he doesn't think he's coming back, but his wife is like, screw that noise, and kisses him, joining with him into the Speed Force. Only Bart is left to push Prime, who taunts him and says he's all alone. But, of course, he's not alone either, as Barry Allen and Bart's mentor, Max Mercury, emerge from the Speed Force to help grab Prime and pull him in. "You can't get rid of me!" "Oh, but if only, kid. If only." So yeah, several Titans slaughtered in horrible ways. True story, on the old Super Dickory forums where I hung out, there was a huge fan of Pantha who was naturally pissed about this story, because even at this point, Pantha's origins had been left unrevealed, and she was killed simply to give character motivation for other Titan Red Star, which is already bullcrap considering how little they did with it, but I digress. Apparently word got to Jeff Johns about that, and in a Booster Gold storyline showcasing an alternate timeline for these events, he made sure to include Pantha and gave her a backstory tied to Maxwell Lord. Credit where it's due. Jeff Johns has a lot of flaws as a writer, but he at least tries to fix up some stuff like that even when he didn't have to. Anyway, in the Arctic, the tuning fork is raised into the sky, the OMAC circling as a defense force. Alex has the Psycho Pirate make Black Adam summon the Shazam lightning, powering the tower. Alex goes to the Anti-Monitor's corpse and engages everything, using the anomaly at the center of the universe to literally push Earth 1 and 2 apart, with giant cosmic hands even. All the heroes who would have originated on Earth 2, particularly the Justice Society, find themselves teleported there, along with the Earth 2 Superman and Lois, to end issue 4. And right now, all the DC heroes are looking up at that other Earth and thinking, man, what the hell do those Marvel guys want now?